sal hierdie Sabbat saam met ons geniet. Ek wil net baie welkom sê aan Mariaan, wat die moeite gedoen het om vandag hier te wees. En sy het saam daarmee uit Nelly gekom. Nelly is from Philippines, and they are doing mission work, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the mission. And Frankie, she's working for the mission. Mariaan.
En Thomas is my neefie, maar ek is verder gesond. Goeiemôre aan u elkeen. Hartlike welkom in die huis van die Here. Is u bly om hier te wees? Ons ook, baie. There was a man sitting by the side of the road when he heard a noise of travel. And suddenly he said, "Tell me what's going on, help me." And somebody said to him, "You know what? I heard Jesus of Nazareth is passing by here this morning." And he said, "Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me." And he started shouting this louder and louder, "Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me." And they said, "Keep quiet." Because saying, "Jesus, thou son of David," is a royal slogan. You're not supposed to say that. Keep quiet. He says, "I won't." He says, "Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus did not pass him by, but healed him, so that he could see. My prayer this morning, dear friends, coming through a hectic week, having had many and numerous attacks by the devil, I understand Jesus of Nazareth is passing by here this morning, and he will not pass you by. I want to say, "Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me," and I and you will be able to see what he wants to show to us during the course of this whole day. Ons gaan begin tot einde. Gaan ons kyk na wat die Here vir ons gesê het. Maar om te kan kyk, moet jy salf kry vir jou oë. En jy die Heilige Gees nodig om jou te rig, sodat jy weet waarvoor om te kyk, en wanneer jy kyk, verstaan jy wat jy gesien het. Baie welkom in die huis van die Here. Ek is so bly dat jy hier is vandag. Ons gaan 'n fees hê in sy teenwoordigheid. Ek wil hê dat ons die Here moet vra om nie verby te gaan, maar om by elkeen stil te staan. En om dit te doen, gaan ek my oë sluit en ek gaan u vra om saam met my te bid. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to be in your house today, your house of worship, where we can honor the God of heaven and earth, the Creator God, the God of the Sabbath. Thank you for bringing these lovely guests as well today. Please bless them as they worship with us. Bless this house. Would you please come in and be our very important guest for this day? Bless us each one. Here, ek kan nie hierdie dag ingaan, ek kan niks doen nie, ek kan niks sê nie. As u dit nie doen nie, gaan ek dit nie kan doen nie. U weet dit, maar ek weet dit nie meer. Dankie Here dat ons nou in die hande is, dat u gaan sien, maar Here dat ek mag sien. Rabboni dat ek mag sien. Dis my groot behoefte vanoggend in Jesus se naam. Amen. Ek het die tema gekies vanoggend vir 'n baie kort oordeenking, want die mense wat ek saamgebring het, wat ek nou gaan terugkom, wil 'n groot gedeelte van ons Sabbatskoolles doen, want hulle is ingevoer. Ja, ingevoer van Filippyne af. As ek imported you, ek het 'n groot ding wat my baie keer pla, en ek sê, Here, ek wil vreeslik graag geloof hê. genoeg geloof, sodat as die Here iets sê, dan aanvaar ek. Want ek het 'n hartsverlange na geloof. En toe lees ek hier, in 1 Konings, ek kan saam met my so toe gaan, 1 Konings, en dis die 18de hoofstuk, en ons kyk daar, ek gaan so 3 verse net uitlig, want u almal ken die storie van Karmel. Ken jy die Karmel storie? Dit was 'n dramatiese dag daar. Maar dis wat eintlik daarna gebeur het wat my tref. Dit sê, u God in Israel is, dat u God in Israel is, en ek is u knegt, en dat ek al die dinge op u woord gedoen het. Antwoord my Here. Kan jy hoor hierdie roep? Nie, Here antwoord my. Here, antwoord my. Het jy dit al ooit gevra? Lord, please listen. Answer me. En hierdie Elia, knegt van die Here, gaan kniel neer. En hy sê, Here, hoor my. Daarom het die vuur van die hemel neergedaal, die brandoffer en die hout en die klippe en die stof verteer, ja, die water en die sloot opgelek. Dit is ongelooflik. Dit gebeur nie. Dit gebeur daai dag. Die Here laat die vuur kom en hy lek al goed op. Weg is dit. En die aanskouers lees is so oorweldigend. En hy sê, en toe die hele volk dit sien, toe val hulle op hulle aangesig. Dis 'n manier van aanbidding. Jy val plat. Jy sê nie net Here doen. You are prostrated. Flat. En hulle sê, die Here, hy is goed. En hulle sê dit weer, die Here, hy is goed. Want hy het geantwoord. En Elia tree uit daai stryd 'n held soos nog nooit nie. So groot. En hy gryp toe. Ek weet wat hy met die profete gedoen het. Toe sê Elia vir Agab. Nou moet jy weet, 3 jaar het dit nie geleen. 3 years I need to act. Can you imagine the doubt? I cannot imagine. I cannot start to imagine that. It was so dry. En hy sê vir hy dit nooit onthou die reën laat oppas, nee. Hy het gesê sy die hemel, toe sy die Here die hemel. Omdat daar afvalligheid om die volk was, dit was die rede. En toe is die tyd nou verby, die geweldige skouspel is gelewer, hulle weet die Here, hy is God, die Here, hy is God. Elia is oorwinnend in die Here, hy staan as 'n held op Karmel. Toe sê Elia vir Agab, trek op, eet, want hoor die gedruis van die reën. My punt vandag is, toe hy hierdie woorde geuit het, toe hy Agab uitdaag en sê, gaan hoor, ek hoor al die reën, jy moet hardloop. Die reën kom, was daar geen teken van reën. Mevrou White sê, die hemel was blou. Daar was geen teken van reën nie. Hy het nie 'n foon gehad soos ek, wat News24 vir jou 'n weervoorspelling gee, en sê daar's dalk 10% kans vir reën môre, wat waarskynlik verkeerd is. Daar was niks nie, hy het geen teken gesien. Toe hy daai woorde uiter, toe meen dit daar's niks. Verstaan u wat geloof? Hoe oefen ek geloof? Hoe kon hy dit gesê? Want sy gedagte gaan nou net terug na Karmel, waar hy die Here op sy woord gevat het, vuur het neergekom. So natuurlik kan ek vir hulle sê, ek hoor al die reën hardloop. Jy gaan versuik, jy moet hardloop. Dit is geloof. As jy niks kan sien nie, dit maak nie sin nie, dit is nie logies nie, dit is naakte geloof. Hardloop Agab, want ek hoor al die gedruis van die reën. He said, I hear the rumbling of the rain. You better hurry up. I have going to rain. When he said that, there was no sign whatsoever of any rain at all. Dit is geloof, dit is naakte geloof. En ek sê, Here, gee my daai geloof. Want ons hele boodskap is gebaseer op geregverdigmaking deur ek hoor nie. So geloof is 'n baie belangrike bestanddeel van ons lewe. En as jy nie geloof het nie, gaan jy nie wanneer dit nou raak, die ding al hoe nouer trek, sal jy dit nie hê nie. So vandag moet jy oefen, sodat jy dit daai dag kan doen. Ek het snaakskool van shorthand geleer. Jy oefen 3-4 uur op 'n dag, spoed. Almekaar, jy sit met die goed in jou oor en jy oefen. Tot jy eendag die nuus so kan afneem. Dan het jy geoefen. Dit is oefening. Jy begin die snelskrift in die klas vat en dan skryf jy snelskrift. Jy moet oefen. Ons geloof moet geoefen word. Hoekom het Elia dit met oortuiging gesê? Want dit was nie net Karmel nie. Hy het 'n pad met die Here geloop. Hy het geweet, as die Here iets sê, dan is dit so. En u weet wat is 'n uitmuntende opsomming van geloof. Hebreërs 11 vers 1. Hy som dit meesterlik op. Paulus se kapasiteit is ongelooflik. Hy sê, die geloof dan is 'n vaste vertroue op die dinge wat ons hoop, 'n bewys van die dinge wat ek nie sien nie. Sien hoekom het blinde Bartimeus gesê, Rabboni, dat ek mag sien. Hy het nie gesien. Ek en jy moet geestelike oë begin kry, sodat ons geloof kan hê, dat ongeag wat gebeur, ons vat die Here op sy woord. As dit onmoontlik lyk, skep moed, want dan skop die Here se alvermoë in teenoor my onvermoë. En dan begin die dinge in die hemel, daai wiele begin draai. Want dit is hoe die Here wil werk. As hy vir jou 25% bewys stuur, dan jy nie geloof nie. Ek vertrou dat ons moet kyk. Ons gaan na die eind van die jaar, die word moeilik. En jy sien baie keer nie die einde nie. Van baie goed. Jy bid, iemand sê nou dat my bid en niks gebeur nie. Skep moed daaraan bid. Want dieselfde God wat ander mense verhoor het, sal jou en my verhoor. Moet nooit moed opgee nie. 'n Vaste vertroue op die goed wat ek hoop, op dit wat my 2 oë nie sien. Ons gaan nou die geleentheid hê om die offergawe op te neem. So die stoom sal vir ons iets speel terwyl ons dit doen. So ons gaan nou die gewone Sabbatskool 13de jaar. 13de Sabbat. Is dit ook nou dit nie wat ons opneem? die Here dat ons weer na U toe kan bring dit wat U so op ons oorvloedig uitstort. Neem dit Here en maak daarmee wat U goed dink. Amen. I'm in Pioneer Church. That's where my membership is there. I'm not in person often there. And one day Nellie, and only Nellie, came to church. And I met Nellie. She made a comment during the Sabbath school lesson which really impressed me. And I got to know Nellie. And one day she says, don't you want to come and have lunch with them? I said, yes. And that day I could see, hospitality is incredible. She fed us. And it's not 2 or 3 people, it's normally not less than 20. And so I got to know Nellie. So 2 weeks ago I preached in the Pioneer, and Nellie was there. And then Nellie asked me, she said, Mariaan, don't you think it'll be a good thing if you go to churches and I can come with you? I can always help you do something. I said, yes, great. So who is Nellie? Nellie's husband, Dr. Laguna, he is working for the division. The division office is now in Victoria, as you know. They're not in Harare anymore. So he's working at the division office. He goes on mission trips as in taking the gospel, although he's a medical doctor. He is currently in Angola, busy with a huge outreach program that she will tell you about. So Nellie is most of the times a widow. Her husband is always in the Lord's work. And therefore I am so grateful that Nellie came with me. And then through Nellie I met our friend here, Frankie, on my left side. Frankie, Africa. Frankie is also involved in the Lord's work. Her late husband was involved in the Lord's work for many, many years. And she is still there, and I met her at Nellie's place, and we got acquainted, and we brought her with us today as well. She will be partially responsible to translate to Nellie the sermon, during the sermon, but because she speaks Afrikaans also, she's totally bilingual. But she has a wonderful gift to work with children. So she will be helping us during the divine service to tell the children's story. Frankie and Nellie, welcome. We're so happy to have you here today. And Nellie will now, often we grew up in this church hearing the mission story every week. But it got so boring because it was the same story, and I always only took the book and read it. There was nothing into it. There was no zest. There was nothing, and it really became a boring time of Sabbath school, and it just faded. We don't often do it, and that's a pity because as we were traveling last week, Nellie gave me incredible information about what is going on in the Lord's work, what is happening in church, what are they doing in Angola, just as an example. But she will tell you whatever she has to tell you in person. So this will be a lively mission story, and I'm looking forward to it. Nellie Liaguna, you can speak it in. We can, if next time she'll do it in Afrikaans.
Thank you very much, Mariaan. Mariaan is so tall, and I'm so short, and so I have to adjust this. But I just want to say thank you very, very much for inviting us to this. This is my second beautiful church that I have worshipped in the last 2 weeks. Last week we were also in Hartbeespoort Seventh-day Adventist Church, where also it was an Afrikaans speaking. I'm looking forward to that day when Jesus comes, because in heaven, I don't know whether it will be Afrikaans, whether it will be English, whether it will be Filipino, whether it will be Zulu, but I know it will be a language that all of us will understand. So I look forward to that Sabbath school in heaven where all of us from all kindreds and tongues and peoples will be able to sit at Jesus' feet and speaking one beautiful language. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Amen. And thank you so much for bearing with me that I will be only able to speak to you in English. English is not my mother tongue, but I will try. Anyway, when I was entering your church, I said, what a beautiful church. And so I asked Nikki, I said, roughly, how many members do we have? And he says 50 and a little over. So when I came in here, I said, yes, I got to tell my mission story, because next time I come, I want the church pews filled up. That would be a beautiful sight when we can invite our neighbors, our friends, because Nikki was telling me just now that that stretch of 60 kilometers from here to where they are, there are hardly any Adventist presence. I even offered, I can be a mission pioneer, missionary. But I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and where I come from. Can you guess where I come from? Did you tell them? Okay, I'll give something. Maybe some of you will know where I am from. Okay, you might say I'm a Ching Chong. Okay, my husband is 25% Chinese, but I'm Filipino. We come from the islands in the Philippines. It's an archipelago, meaning it's many different islands surrounded by water. We have 7,100 islands in the Philippines. But as I told my friends at breakfast time, that some of those islands, they emerge during low tide, when the water level is low from the sea, from the ocean, but when they submerge during high tide. And when tsunami hits our islands, a lot of these islands, they get buried into the ocean. Okay? And not all of them are habitable, meaning there are islands that you cannot live there because it's just rocky outcrops, you know? They are not, cannot be inhabited. Some of our rich Filipinos, they own some islands, like some Greeks, they own some small islands, you know? And same thing in the Philippines. But Philippines is very highly populated country. Your country, South Africa, the land area is 5 times larger than the Philippines. But population-wise, we are double your population. We are now more than 92 million people. So in one city alone, like say Pretoria, for example, Manila, a very small space, we will have more than 20 million people. So when you die in the Philippines, you die standing. You cannot afford this one. You have to be put like this, like, you know, in Europe, those catacombs, where they just put you one level, one like that. That's how we are buried. One floor here, the father here, and another cement block, you know. Or cremation is also a common thing. So you may ask, how did she come to Africa? In Africa, I learned this expression, many moons away. I was single and only 23 years old. There was a need for an accountant in our offices in Nairobi, Kenya. So that's where my first mission post was. I have to do fast forward, and you have to tell me when my 10 minutes is finished. Because a stretch of 38 years, you cannot condense that report in 5 minutes, isn't it? So I'm going to fast forward. So I worked in Nairobi in Kenya for 4 years. And then during those years, our headquarters for the same division where I am now used to be in Beirut in Lebanon. So in 1978, they moved me to Beirut, Lebanon. But at the time, the war was raging. You remember in the early 80s, in the late 70s, there was war between the Syrians and the Israelis and the Lebanese soldiers and like that. So we were not able to operate very well. So they moved us to Cyprus. You know the island of Cyprus? If you read the book of Acts chapter 11, where Paul and Barnabas, when during the persecution in Jerusalem, they labored in Cyprus because it was calm there. So that's where I worked for another 4 years. And then in 1982, they moved the headquarters from the Middle East back to Kenya in Nairobi. So that was then the old Afro-Middle East division. They detached the Middle East and have it attached to the General Conference, and then the headquarters moved to Nairobi, Kenya. And that's where we operated until 1984. It became East Africa Division, EAD. The church always carries 3 letters. They do not say Eastern Africa Division, EADD, like that. No, it's only EAD. Then it was moved to Harare. At the time, it was just moving from Salisbury, Rhodesia to Harare, Zimbabwe. So I got transferred in Harare, Zimbabwe. And I met my husband, who was also a single missionary in Kenya. You see, young people, the Lord can be trusted. Wherever you are, if God has a plan for you, Jeremiah 29 verse 11, He will find a partner for you. I was in Kenya in 1982. Who would you believe God sent? A missionary doctor, a single one, to Africa. We met and we got married in Harare, Zimbabwe in 1984. And together we labored in a mission hospital called Heri in Tanzania. And then I left my job at the division. They said, like the Prince of Morocco, willing to leave the throne just to follow the course of love. Isn't it? I left my nice work at the division, and then I went to this very far-fetched hospital in Zambia. Together we worked for 8 years. I don't know if you've heard about Yuka Adventist Hospital in Zambia. I can tell you a whole book of stories of this stint in Africa for 8 years, where there was no electricity. There was only electricity from 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night. And I was telling the folks that Dr. Yeguno had to do surgery sometimes with no suction machine, so you have to use a gauze. When there is a ruptured uterus, you just plunge in the gauze and squeeze the blood and do like that. We were under that circumstance. If you have heard the name in South Africa, John Thomas, Birkenstock, Fred Thomas, they were the pioneer missionaries. After they graduated from Heidelberg, they were sent there in 1949. They established the hospital in 1951, and in 1984, they came to visit us because I worked together with the Fred Thomases in Cyprus and Lebanon. And I was telling Mrs. Thomas, Jean, why did you establish this hospital here in the place of nowhere? And then she was telling me, Nelly, in those years in the 50s, we had beautiful gardens here, but the water level of the river has really gone down, that it was so dry during our time. And she even cried when she did a sentimental journey after 30 years. She says, this is not the Yuka I knew, Nelly. We used to have beautiful gardens and beautiful wooded trees around. But when we arrived there, they have already cut down the trees. It was bald and nothing grows because it was almost a semi-desert area in the Caprivi Strip. But the Lord blessed our work there. For 8 years we labored there. Then we were transferred to Botswana. If you know Dr. Carl Seligman, that's him as well, from South Africa. Started the work in Kanye Hospital, and we worked in Botswana at a church clinic in Gaborone, and we were there 8 years. And then they moved us to Zimbabwe. You know Zimbabwe in the early 2003, 2002, those were the critical years in Zimbabwe. It still is, but that time when we were there, my daughter was crying when we were packing to go to Zimbabwe. She says, "Papa, please, don't take us to Zimbabwe. They are killing the white farmers there. Please, let's not go." And so I was even comforting her. "Child, we are not farmers. We are not white farmers. They will not kill us. We don't have money, you know." But he says, "No, you are brown. They will still kill you." But you know, we have never said no to the Lord. At the time when the crisis in Zimbabwe, there was a runaway inflation. You go to the bakery, the cost of the bread would be, say, 50,000 Zim dollars or bearers. So when you come out, it's already, say, 52,000. That's how quick the value of the money deteriorated. I used to go, because I work as an accountant in the division office. So my job is sometimes to help do the depositing of the money. We used to carry a trolley. You know this trolley that you use for in the airplane, in the cabin? You have to carry that one to take your money for deposit to the bank, and then you take it away. And then they will say, no, that's not valid anymore, because there is a due date in that bearer's note, because they want to avoid people from hoarding the money in their homes. So there is a deadline or a maturity date for those bearers' notes. So in 2007, again, there was they uprooted us again, and then we moved to here in Pretoria. So it's been almost 7 years now since we moved January of 2007, and it is now 2013. All I am telling you folks, that the Lord's work is moving forward. You know, right now, my time is almost up. I'm also fast forward. Now, many things are happening around the world. I love the lesson for this week, because it is the culmination of everything. One day Jesus will come, and things are happening. Last night I downloaded. If you want to know what is happening in your church, just download in our website the Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division website. And there you will know what is happening with your church, what's happening. We have 23 countries in the Southern Asia, you see, I'm thinking of Asia now. Southern Indian Ocean, Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division. We, under this division, with headquarters based in Pretoria, there are other countries. We have 10 unions here. We have 2 unions in Angola. Soon we will have 2 unions in Zambia. Zambia, my fellow brethren, Zambia is the largest, the biggest union in membership worldwide. They have reached already over 1 million mark membership. So things are happening. Angola, for more than 30 years, they had civil war. Right now, Angola is waking up. They are becoming a financial giant next to South Africa. Money is still here as far as members, is concerned. But membership-wise, they are growing. Zambia, Zimbabwe are almost there, because I monitor all these tithes and offerings every month. So our people are waking up. They are helping to hasten the work in Angola. Not this year. The focus of the divisions program is to reach out to our big cities, and they have targeted 2 cities in Angola, several. One was in Luanda. For the past 6 months, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, they were busy working in Angola. They call it in Portuguese, Angola para Cristo, Luanda para Cristo, Huambo para Cristo. And I want to just read an excerpt of the news. Here it says, 23,000, listen to this, 23,179 baptized in Luanda. You know, it's unheard of. But people are coming to the Lord. What are we doing? That's why my challenge is that let's fail, but what can we do? You know, I will give you simple tips of what we can do to fill our pews here. It says, since February 2013, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Angola has been actively sharing a message of hope through health expos, ministering to the sick and elderly, public evangelistic meetings, small groups, 57 preachers from South America, from Brazil, because it's a name, 33,000 evangelistic sites. You know, like my husband is a medical doctor as well. He is the health director of the division. But at the same time, each director of the division is challenged or is encouraged to conduct an evangelistic meeting. So all the directors for the past 3 weeks have gone to Luanda. They were given, like, your church is Petersburg, your church is this church in Polokwane, this church, and then they simultaneously, at the same time, for that same week, each one is holding their crusades or their evangelistic meetings. And at the end of it, at the climax, 60,000 people were in those 2 big stadiums in Luanda. And not only that, outside, the report that we received last Monday was that outside, last Wednesday, outside the big stadiums are equal number of people that are inside, because they cannot get inside because the place was already packed full. And this is only Luanda. As we are speaking now, another meeting, sets of meetings are being conducted on the southern part of Angola, and the headquarters of that union is in Huambo. Huambo, now they also have satellite meetings there. And so we have not heard the report, but this coming week we will find that out. And we were so thankful that from this country, you have sent 8 major speakers to preach there. There was Pastor Reineke, there was Pastor Dr. Gerald Dupree, there was Mrs. Kuneni, there was Pastor Justin Johannes from Cape Town, and some others, you know. So they are involved, and now they have gotten the momentum on what we can do as well here in South Africa. So, like I told you, what I do in my own little, I try to identify what my spiritual gift is. I'm not a good preacher, I'm not a good what is this, but I can make friends. Now, young people, friendship evangelism is a very good tool in this ministry. So what you do, I get to know the hairstyler of my hair, I go to the telephone company, to Vodacom, I go to Pick and Pay, and I carry some magazines. And what do? I said, hey, are you interested for a Bible lesson? I have a discovery lesson, the VOP. We tried that in Zimbabwe, and believe me, security guards in your complex, you give them great hope, steps to Christ, you can put your name in there, and then you tell them, you promise to read it, okay? And you give me your input. And then when I come back, they will say, but, I'm the only one you gave. My friend also wants. Can you see now the chain reaction? You can be an Andrew. You can just introduce people to Jesus, and then Jesus will take care of that. I can introduce my friend to Jesus. I can introduce my friend to my pastor, and my pastor will be the one, or my head elder, or my somebody, because maybe, I don't know. But in Zimbabwe, I managed to enroll 17 people. They graduated. We had a massive graduation. I can just imagine this church, if we saturate it with Voice of Prophecy lesson, you can invite us to come to hold the graduation. And believe me, out of the 17, 5 of them accepted the Lord. That was the last quinquennium. Now I am working in my own helper in the house. She is now coming to church. The other day, I was so thrilled when she came to me. She was jumping. And I said, Brenda, what's the news? She says, Mrs. Leguno, look at this text in my cell phone. I said, what is it? She says, look what they told me. Thank you so much, Brenda, for explaining the topic last Wednesday night in your home. You explained it so well. And remember, this lady is not yet baptized. She says, you explain the Bible so well that we don't need even to contribute. So then she came to me and she says, thank you so much for helping me. I said, then I remembered that Friday earlier, she came to me, she says, Mrs. Leguno, we have a small group in our church and now they're gonna have it in my house. And so she says, please help me. Teach me quick. What are the texts in the Bible? The tests of a true prophet. What is a true prophet and what is a false prophet? And brethren, it challenged me too. They said, where are the texts now? So she says to me, can you help me? And so I can share. And that afternoon, Friday, I told her, I want to rest. Let me sleep first. So I was resting. I said, you let me know. Anyway, it's on Wednesday. On Monday, I'll give you the text. Hey, after she ironed, I said, Brenda, it's time to go home. It's 4:30. You still have to go home. And she says, and where is my notes? I said, what? You are expecting me to write the notes? She says, yes, because I have to study it before Wednesday. Believe me. I said, okay. You continue ironing. Boom. I was writing. Go to the concordance. So I thought, okay, four acid tests of a true prophet. Quick. I said, Isaiah 8:20, it says, to the law and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So, by their fruits you shall know them, in Matthew. And number 3, I said, the prophet's prophecy always come to pass, except for conditional prophecy. And the last I said is, if you are a true prophet of God, you will speak about Jesus. Muhammad does not speak about Jesus. Is he a true prophet? My Jesus is purely human and purely divine. He is now in heaven. Nobody else can save you, I told Brenda, except Jesus. If that person speak about Jesus, who saves, who is risen, then he is a true prophet. So I gave that, and I told him that one day when people say, hey, Jesus has arrived in Petersburg, will you believe it, Brenda? No, because every eye will see from east to west. And so when she explained that, this is why the people were happy. So you see, you can share it to your helper, you can share it to the security. I know Mantla from Pick and Pay, every time I go there, he always tells me, oh, thank you so much for that little book you gave. Does God really care when I am hurting? And brethren, another thing you can do, my neighbor is Mornay, not Duplessis, Mornay Koitse. He is a real African, and he always tells me, hey, Nelly, we love Oriental food because we always go to Thailand for our holidays. I said, oh, really? So in my mind, immediately I thought, food is the way to this man's heart. What did I do? I prepared stir-fried noodles and spring rolls, and I came to their door and I said, Mornay, I'm sharing you some noodles. What? He got so excited. And after some weeks, I forgot about it, and he came and he says, Nelly, remember, we are still your neighbors. Meaning to say, give me more. So, and then he says, come. Next time you come, we will treat you the real Afrikaner, boerewors and everything, So, but you see, this is another opening for me. And so, they welcome me. The wife is a lawyer, Nicole, and they have one little boy. They welcome me to their home, and they said to me, sit down. And he works as a consultant for a liqueur company. Talk about a missionary facing a liqueur company there. And you know what he says? Tell me more about your church. And I had the opportunity now. I said, Lord, give me the words to speak. Give me. I shared it to him. He was so touched. He was so impressed. Each time I see him, whether in the bank there at ABSA or at a restaurant, he would always tell his friends, do you know this woman? She's my neighbor. She's an excellent cook, you know, and she would do it, and she's a good person, you know. And when she sees my husband travel a lot, Nelly, how can your husband leave you when you're such a good woman, you know? And on and on. And I can tell you experiences after experiences of how you can be used. Invite a neighbor. Just give them a drink. I'm telling you, but pray about it, my friends. A piece of literature can make a whole life of difference, a whole world of difference to a person that you give it to when you pray. But otherwise, it will only be a piece of literature with no effect. A prayer offered to a neighbor who is sick can be a transforming power in the life of that person. But the difference is prayer. Prayer, pray. We have to pray. Lord, my prayer this week is that, and my prayer all the time, I said, Lord, in what ways can I go to reach out? And so I thank the Lord, even for today. I want to read to you this one. Our world is falling apart. This is what our lesson today says. Our world is falling apart. Things are happening. There are so many out there who are hungering, lonely. You have many people here who are wanting to know more what is to come in this world, the chaos that we have, the uncertainty. We can tell them that there is hope in God. We are reading this Revive by Your Word now. We are reading in the book of Psalms. The church is promoting this. If we can read this together with our children in the morning or in the evening, whatever is the convenient time, it is so beautiful. It can transform us, and when it transforms us, what God has done for us, we cannot keep that good news, and that is the gospel. What God has done for us, we can tell it to somebody. You know, this week I had a challenge in this, but my God is so great. He answered my prayer. That testimony, my friends, will mean a lot to the person that you have shared, because so many right now are dying for that assurance, for that hope. I was telling the people today that our wealth is not, our wealth is measured by what we can have in eternity. So I challenge you that we will work while there is still day. The night will come when no man can work. And God assured us in Matthew 28:18-20, that He will give us the power and the Holy Spirit to give us the words to speak. And not only that, the last portion it says, and I will be with you even unto the end. So let's be encouraged. Let's encourage one another. Let's not give up. That I'm shy to tell about. That was also my challenge. But when the Lord empowers you, you will forget about self. You are so excited because this Jesus who is coming soon is also coming for you, not only for you, but for your neighbors. That's why I tell my helper, I said, Brenda, I don't want you to say this, that one day you will say, but you know, I worked for the Liagunos for 7 years, but they never shared me about the good news of salvation. I don't want you to blame me one day. Whether you will accept it or not, I'm offering it to you. But it is an offer that you will never regret. So let's do this likewise, because time is not with us. The night is coming when no man can work. So let's do while there is still day. Thank you very much, and may we all have a lovely Sabbath.
Thank you, Nelly. Dat is inspiring. Het julle dit geniet? Dit beteken vir jou iets, nee, om van iemand iets te hoor wat hierdie goed deurgaan. Sy het my vertel op Kanye Hospitaal. Dis 'n Malaatse inrigting. Wat daar, jy weet, hulle moes met 'n boot vir 5-6 ure ry, vaar. Dan moet jy weer, ek weet nie hoeveel kilometers met 'n bus ry. Dis met sendelinge met kindertjies. Jy weet, ons besef nie altyd wat dit behels om 'n sendeling te wees. Wat se goed hulle deurgaan nie. Jy gaan na jou bad toe, jy maak jou warm en krou kraan oop in die bad. Jy dink nie daaraan dat jy Baie mense wat vir die Here werk, het nie sulke goed nie. Hulle het nie net krag om aan en af te sit nie. Hulle het deur moeilike tye gehad. Sy sê vir my, haar man, your husband had how many times he has meer as 20 keer malaria gehad. Sy sê hy het al by die dood omgedraai. Verstaan jy, ons is nie besef ons is nie in kontak met die werklikheid van die mense wat werklik die Here se werk op die voorgrond doen. Alhoewel, however, ek en jy hoef nie Juka hospitaal toe te gaan nie. Ons hoef nie daar in Indië reis te eet nie. Hierso is die grootste werk. Vergewe my, ek moet dit sê. Ek het nou die dag daaroor gepraat. Die grootste werk sit baie keer reg om jou neus. Dis baie keer mense wat ten gronde gaan in ons geleedere. Vergeet die 3 engele boodskap buite te vra. Ellen White sê, die werk moet hier begin, voor ons buite gaan. Baie van ons mense binne die kerk gaan werklik ten gronde, en het nie die vrymoedigheid om te vra, help my nie. En ons moet sensitief gemaak word deur die Heilige Gees om hierdie goed op te tel, en om daai mense by te staan. Dit is ons sending. Sending, meer nie in die grammadulas noodwendig nie. Dit het ook daar 'n doel. Thank you so much, Nelly. You really inspired us.